Hi everyone, welcome to this interview by Core Recruitment. Thank you very much for joining us today. Core Recruitment, if you don't know, is an international recruitment agency. We specialize in leisure, tourism, hospitality, property, all of those kind of associated sectors, and we operate mid to senior level across exec and non-exec positions. Now we're doing this interview series and meeting lots of different industry characters from across the world, who are entrepreneurs or business founders or just people who have done kind of like really exceptional things. All of these interviews can be viewed on our website, which is www.corerecruitment.com, and feel free to like, share, and post them out anywhere that you like to, or share them with other people as well. Now, today we are in Dubai and we are speaking to an individual I think I've known now. I looked back and I think it's 17 years. Now, to me, sometimes there are certain companies which, and you can track back and find these companies, and they generate individuals who go off and do exceptional things in lots of different directions. And I think it was probably about 20 years ago, the restaurant group Gaucho was expanding internationally, and people have gone off from that expansion and gone and done incredible things within other organizations and for themselves as well. We very recently did an interview with Martin Williams, which was one of the protagonists for getting Ryan Hattingh to join us today. Hi, Ryan, how are you?
You, you got the guy that taught Martin, so it's fine. It's very nice.
I love the friendly rivalry. It's absolutely exceptional. So, Ryan, for those who don't know you, if you go to the dictionary, the Oxford Dictionary, and you scan up the word entrepreneur, there's your face and your name is kind of
Mhm.
like under there because you're always doing something interesting. You're always doing a deal. Every single time I meet up with you, there's some new concept or something else going on, which is just absolutely incredible. For those who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about the business that you currently run and how it's operating?
So the company is called Agon Capital. We have different verticals within our group. One of them is real estate. One of them is development, pure investments. We have hospitality, sports and leisure, and hotels and resorts. So the residential is management and owning of residential properties. We have, I don't know, a few hundred under management that we have with the team that runs that. The development, we have a development team. We're building villas. We're doing low rises. We do development and project management. So for ourselves and for other people. Again, a very, very interesting segment of the business. It's something not in real estate, but I've somehow been building restaurants since, I don't know, the early 2000s, really. Um, and then the investment is it's just funding and non hands-off board management. The hotels, sorry, F&B, we have, I think, six or seven, no, seven restaurants. Beach club, we have a couple of beach clubs, some restaurants, different levels, which is quite fun, all in Dubai at the moment. Sports and leisure, we have precision football. And precision football is a very interesting business um, where we've got 180,000 square feet of football academy and football pitches. So we have a full-size pitch, two five-a-sides, one seven-a-side, two paddle courts, an indoor pitch, and an indoor tech center. And that sits on the first floor of a car park in a mall in the south of Dubai. So that's an interesting one. We have a professional men's team, we have a professional ladies team. Five of our ladies team are on the national team. We do a degree program with the government. So we have a Eduqual. We're now registered with Eduqual. So we're doing with the Ministry of Sports. We have a partnership with the Ministry of Sports, and with Eduqual we've just finished. Now we're busy planning the graduation of our first course. Um, Ex-Olympians, ex-footballers, all UAE nationals that we actually giving an opportunity to learn something other than their chosen sport. At the moment, we're talking to five or six different partners in Saudi because the World Cup is there, and we're in a very good position with Precision because we're agnostic. So we're not tied to any football club. So we can go anywhere. We can literally become the resource for any football club for their grassroots program. We are more than a coach with a whistle. Our kids, I think now we're like 1,000 kids. So we have a development squad. Sorry, we've got 28 squads. And then the academy, we're just learning how to play right the way up to 18. And then our professional team. So we have a good road to pro. We buy players out of Africa and out of South America and we sell them on. Second division team. The hotel and resorts, we just bought an island in Maldives, which we are currently under design and development. And that Maldivian island will become 72-room hotel, ultra luxury. It's a substantial investment, but we plan and hope with the operator that we're talking to, and I think we'll hopefully get there to become the ultra premium resort in Maldives. And that's our aim. We've got 10 private islands that we're selling at $25 million per island, and then 63 rooms. That's a fantastic project. It's really, really interesting. So I have a fair bit to keep myself entertained.
I mean, it's all related to hospitality and leisure, but it's obviously mushroomed into kind of like lots of different things. Are you just constantly on the lookout for new deals and new partners all the time? Do people come to you with these things?
It's a bit of both. A lot of it's opportunistic. If we see something that's interesting, we go for it. And the Maldives we thought was a great market between our development and our hospitality, and we're looking to create an ecosystem where people train with us, they get fit with us, they learn from us, they work with us, they live with us, they party with us, eat with us, and now holiday with us. So the brand has to become so powerful that it's an ecosystem that people trust, and that's really where we're aiming at. And I think we're on a good path.
Absolutely. Now, also in the dictionary, I think you get a word mention under the word resilient as well, Ryan, because you're always on, you never get beaten down, and I'm sure that there's been some kind of like I'm sure like the upward trajectory has not always been kind of like upwards.
No,
Where
for
does
sure.
this drive come from? Where does this kind of was it were you always kind of like driven like this, or did it come about?
Um, it's an interesting question. I think what I actually think it boils down to is that I'm very self-critical and very rarely self-satisfied. So what I don't ever do, and or not ever, but very rarely, if I set out to do something, say it's a deal or close a brand or buy an island or whatever, I never ever, and it's really is a fault because it means I don't get to enjoy what I do really. But I never sit down and say, "Oh, that's great. I'm done that and achieved that. I'm happy." I sit down and I go, "Okay, what do I need to do next?"
Hmm.
So if I'm building a restaurant, I don't say, "Okay, now the restaurant's built and it looks fantastic." Now I'm thinking, how do I get the thing open? I've got to think of the team, and I've got. So I never actually take enjoyment or get enjoyment out of what I achieve. So it's a resilience, but it's driven by a constant dissatisfaction of what I do. If that makes sense. I think dissatisfaction is the thing, but I I think, and it's a downfall because I don't do it enough, or very, very, very rarely, where I sit down and say, "Oh, that was really good. I'm happy I've done it." And I think that's, as I said, it's really a downfall for me, but it's part of what drives me because I'm always just looking, okay, what's next? What next? What next? It's not a negative. It's not like, oh, God, I've done it. It's not a negative thing. It's just like, okay, I never take a breath to say, shit, we've achieved that, you know? And I believe that's probably the drive. And then also, I think, I was looking the other day, I worked in 22 countries,
Wow.
and or done work in 22 countries. And I always want to learn new things, and that makes me excited. So again, another part of it is saying, well, oh, now I'm doing a hotel in Maldives. Who would have thought when I was growing up, or when I first moved to London, whatever, in '97, that I would end up living in Dubai and doing a hotel in Maldives. I've done hotels in Nigeria, in Egypt. I worked in Saudi. So it's also just taking the opportunity where they fall in my lap and trying to run with them and trying to do different things and be multifaceted. And now my aim is to try and learn more fields. So take the skills that I have from hospitality, from business, from doing my masters, taking those skills and putting them into different fields, because I think it's quite interesting. The financing side of it, the real estate, the investing. It's broadening my skills well out of my comfort zone, well out of my comfort zone. Um, which is great because it keeps me going. It keeps my mind ticking.
Absolutely. So when you're sitting in one of your stunning beach clubs on, I don't know, kind of like a Saturday afternoon, the music's pumping, everyone's having a great time, people are ordering, I don't know, kind of like $10,000 bottles of champagne. Like, can you relax? Can you enjoy it at that moment? Or are you,
Uh, Yes and no. I do because I try and it's funny. My wife always gives me a hard time because I'm always working. So if I'm sitting there and then I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, why haven't they done this? Why haven't they done that? Why haven't they done that? And they should be doing this, and the music's wrong, the lights wrong. This is not. I think anybody in the hospitality industry is very difficult to switch off. And not look at that. And I can't remember which book I read it in or where I heard it from, but somebody years ago said to me, we're prone to catch people doing things wrong.
yes,
And I'm definitely that person. And I don't often catch people doing things right.
yeah,
So I don't often, including myself. So I don't often sit down and go, you know what, you did a fantastic job. And I don't do it. I really don't do it to myself ever, and I don't do it with my team. And that I know that they take the strain for it because they also want to be, just thanked. I mean, I thank them, but to say, listen, you did a good job. And what I don't do is sit down with the team and catch, as I say, catch them doing something right. I don't do it nearly enough, and I always put the same pressure I do on myself onto my team. I try and soften it, but I have a very difficult. I find it very difficult to do that. To be that person that says, "Oh, fantastic, well done. Let's take a break and let's have a look at the success." And I think that would make me a better person and a better manager as well.
absolutely. I wasn't actually aware that you went back and did a master's. Did you do that in Dubai?
No, Liverpool University. Yeah, I did a postgrad at Liverpool,
Oh,
which
wow.
was
Why Liverpool?
it was online. Well, there was a few reasons. The timing of it, because I think I did it in 2016. So it was the timing, and it was the fact that then Liverpool was in the top 100 MBAs, and I actually always felt that I needed to learn more. And I didn't from an average education in growing up, so I always wanted to have a better education. So that was the choice.
Absolutely. Now, coming on to Dubai, now it very much feels like Dubai is the land of opportunity at the moment. And like, I've been
Mm.
recruiting in Dubai now for, a long time. And there was always a boom, and then you wait for the bust, and then a boom, and then a bust. I mean, there hasn't been a bust for a pretty long time, Ryan, right? So is
Are
this
you are
it?
you are you trying to jinx it? Yeah. Are you
I'm
hoping?
definitely not me. But like, I mean, do you think this is it now? Do you think kind of like, this is Dubai kind of in its through its adolescence, shall we say?
I've been here for on and off for 16 years and coming here for oh my God, I don't even know how long. Um, we uh, we are in a really, really unique situation globally, I think, because UAE's got a fantastic government. And the government doesn't put ideology or anything else into the governance. All they put in is what is best for the country and what is
Yeah.
best for business and how can everybody thrive.
Yeah.
So they tend to move roadblocks out of their way instead of making it harder and more regulated, uh, to a point where there's safety and there's security, but at the same time there's freedom and ability to do your job. The so honestly, I can't, and I've looked at definitely in the last sort of 5 years globally what's happened from a governance perspective from COVID, et cetera, et cetera. And I think how the country ran that crisis and every crisis since then has been unbelievably well managed. And to answer your question, I think Dubai is now a grown-up city.
Yeah.
And I look at it often. I'm just sitting looking out my window now, and there's a tower next to me that you don't notice things, but I think we had bought this office maybe 4 years ago, and I've been sitting here, and they started building a building two years ago. I'm actually going to just turn my window onto this. Look at this. This is going up to, I don't know, and this is a year and a half.
Yeah.
Right. So oh, this wasn't built on, but because people are scared to build and people are worried, and this is built safely. I'm literally looking over at the building site, and I watch the safety meetings in the morning. It's done properly and it's done unbelievably well, but quickly. So to answer your question, every country goes through ups and downs, but I think we're super resilient. I think the government here learns very well from any errors they might make, but also from errors that other people make,
Yeah.
and we take huge advantage of it. The risk obviously is regional tension and global upheaval. I think that's where we stand to win or lose. People making noise about other countries in the region, or setting off bombs or doing whatever around will affect us, and that's the problem. People get that people don't think, oh, Qatar, whatever. They think it's all the same country. You know what I mean? They think it's all the same place. So it will affect us, and that's a problem. But from a country perspective, I think with the governance that we have, we're in good shape. We're in very good shape.
And in terms of trends or kind of concepts that you see coming to Dubai in the near future, what do you think that looks like? What do you think Dubai, I mean, I don't think Dubai is lacking anything, but what do you think is coming to Dubai
Mm,
next?
um, hmm, That's a good question. You know what I actually do think is what I do think is a shame, if I put it like that, is we went through a spurt of growth of local homegrown concepts. And that was in probably just at the beginning of pre-COVID and running into COVID and beyond, right? And I think that was actually it was a couple of years pre-COVID where the rentals were low, the interest in coming into the city was low. So people were able to afford to do it. People were able to afford to start little startups, like you probably know Reef and what's his name, the guys from Three Fills, etc., etc. And with the it's a landlord's market at the moment and has been for a few years, and that's prohibiting people from growing homegrown concepts themselves. And
Hmm.
I think I would like, whether that's a trend that's coming, I'm not sure, but is it something I'd like to see, and I'd like to see more of and more success of? Absolutely, absolutely. The other thing, we're not, from a hospitality perspective, we're not doing, or we're not creating concepts for millennials anymore. So 7 or 8 years ago, it was millennials. So now we're on Gen Z, and we need to think of things that are going to capture them, right? And that is a problem because they are very, very, very caught up in in their phone. And I think what we need, what seems to work is I say it to my team all the time, how do we get people to put their phones down? and that creating concepts like that engage people and force them. We were doing Instagrammable stuff 10 years ago. Everything had to be Instagram. This is Instagram. And I think now that it's actually going to not go the other way, but we need to get stuff that's more submersive, that's more interesting. It's getting people not to look at it through the phone. Yeah, take a little bit, put it down, and get involved. And I see it with the football, because that's quite an interesting one, where I see the kids. We've got a tech center, and the tech center's got, I don't know, 18 different forms of football technology. And I watch the kids that come into the academy and how they engage with the icons and with the walls and the different pieces of tech that we have. And that makes them more, because there's an iPad, so they can come in and they do their iPad thing and they can do their tech stuff and they touch their stuff, and then they get moving. So that's forcing them to become mobile and also to engage in the football and engage in what we're trying to do. So my thinking now is, how do we get things moving forward that incorporate the tech as part of what we do, more than as the be all and end all of what we try and do, if that makes sense. And I think when we were kids, TV come out and it was, oh, the thing, but then eventually it becomes sort of part of your day, don't it? But we're still not at that point yet with phones, I don't think, and with Instagram and social media and all of that. So yeah, that's what my 2 cents were.
And I mean, as an example of somebody who's come to Dubai and nailed it, Ryan, I mean, let's be honest, like, in terms of kind of like that side of things, there'll be a lot of people sitting in other countries kind of like watching this interview and kind of thinking, oh my God, I want to go to Dubai. It's a land of opportunity. All of this growth's there. Look at Ryan. He's done all these amazing things. I mean, do you think it's still that opportunity? And if you were starting all over again just now, what steps would you kind of take if you were just landing in Dubai?
Mm, I would learn to localize a lot quicker.
Yep.
Right. I came to Dubai and, well, to the Middle East with you mentioned Gaucho, but we had a very, very, very strong brand and a very strong belief in our brand and our DNA. And when I went internationally, I always said I want to create a Gaucho in Dubai, not a Dubai Gaucho.
Yeah.
And everything I did was, how do we make Gaucho in Dubai? And my lesson, I think you spoke about lessons learned, was not understanding the market I was coming into enough to want to localize our brand. I built 12 or 13 gauchos. So when I was started, there were 5 of them, and I expanded most of the gauchos. So coming internationally, I didn't understand enough about, and that was part of my school fees, let's say, or my lessons coming into the Middle East and going international, was one of the silly things was in Beirut. We did a gacha in Beirut, and I refused. Everywhere you go to in Beirut, you get peanuts and carrots on the table, and I just refused to do it because it was affecting our spend. It was not what we did. We're not a Lebanese restaurant, whatever. And then I watched, it took me about 6 months for it to set into my head that people come very late, they eat very late. And when people, if we make an appointment or a dinner at 8 o'clock, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and that's it. We'll be there, late. Whereas in Lebanon, someone will be at 8:30 and the last person can show up at 10 o'clock, you know? And so that point of having something to nibble on while people are waiting was very much something that should have been obvious to me, but it wasn't, because I was so fixated on the excellence and on what we did that I didn't look at it and go, wait a minute, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be looking. So it took me a bit of time to let that sink in. So that was probably coming in with an open mind, understanding the local market, putting your ego aside,
Mm.
because that's probably the biggest lesson. And I don't mean ego as in egotistical. I mean ego as in what your ego is with what you're bringing to the table, and look at what you're actually finding locally. I've got a friend who builds who builds kitchens, and he always says, he's just had the next Zuma coming in. This is the Peruvian Zuma or the whatever. I'm going to be the next French Zuma. Everybody's the next Zuma that comes into Dubai. And we always laugh about it. It's the next savior of the industry. And yeah, I think that's probably a really good lesson is to learn how to localize, coming with an open mind, with the will to work, understanding that if you don't succeed, there's no how can I say it? There's no comfort blanket of
Yeah.
anything. You just have to come here and work and do well, or you don't survive.
Yeah.
And it's about hard work, it's about being resilient, it's about being tenacious, it's about pushing yourself, and it's about being honest with yourself about what your skills are and being honest with people around you. And I think a lot of in the past, not so much now, but a lot of in the past, people came from, I don't know, waiter, and they came here as a general manager because it was a hardship posting or whatever you want to call it. So it was harder to get the talent. Now the talent's here. The
Yeah.
talent pool is here, which is great. It's great for us. So, being really true, being a hard worker, um, learning the market, understanding the market, and just giving it everything that you can. Dubai is not an easy city like any other big city in the world. There's nothing easy about coming here, and there's nothing, you're not going to get the big postings like before, the big jobs and whatever. You got to come here, and like any other city, you got to come here and you got to work your butt off. But that's the beauty of it, is it's like any other city now, where you can come here and you can really work hard, and opportunities are there. And as employers, we can employ from, I don't know, out of 200 countries, you can employ from 150, 180. So there's very, very limited, there's very few resources that are limited to us,
Yes.
which is another great thing. If you want to start a business here, you can bring your staff from anywhere. There's no restrictions. We're lucky we can employ anyone. So understanding that, and if you're going to come as a business, do your homework, know the pitfalls, know all of the costs, know what's gonna, this is cheap, that is cheap, that is cheap. Nothing's cheap. Nothing's cheap because unless you know what the costs are. And the most expensive thing is not knowing. So do your homework, understand it properly, fight hard for decent rentals because that's going to be your killer. And yeah, just look and understand where you are and what your location is. And I think you got to be a hard bugger to come here and get on with it.
Absolutely. Now, we mentioned Gaucho kind of like a couple of times, and there was something in the water, I mean, in Gaucho at the time when you were there, when you look at the trajectories and where people have gone and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm.
What was it about that culture that you think generated so many great leaders that have gone on to do other things?
Wait, that's a question. So I think when we had ops director who was running the business called Donald, and he left. And there were a few of us that at that time were GMs. Me, Martin, Tracy, who else? Lawrence. There was a few of us that had been there for. I was actually the youngest, newest employee, other than Martin. So Martin came and trained with me, and you've got to make sure I've told you that. So I think the beauty of, even when Donald was there, because Donald was really quite something. He was quite smart, and he was really open, and he was really like uh, he made us go to restaurants and eat and look and try and taste, and he actually forced us out of our box of what we were. He started our journey to becoming something more than what we were in those days. And that was, we used to microwave mashed potato. We it was quite a thing. So we pulled out we completely changed the kitchens, completely changed the chefs. We did a whole new menu, and Donald left. And I think Zev gave us the latitude and the freedom to do what we wanted with it. And all of us were so adamant and dogged in what we believed that I remember once we were looking at a butter dish for butter. and we had a 3 hour argument about which dish should go on the table and why it should go on the table and what the butter should be. And you can't make that shit up. Sorry, I should be swearing, but you can't make that up. We would have arguments about stuff like that because all of us had our ideas, but everybody was at an equal voice. We sat around the table and everyone had an equal voice. And all of us had different skill sets that we brought into the business, And I think, after I left and after that all sort of changed and went a little bit, not because I left, but I just think that poacher, gamekeeper stopped happening where everybody, the balance of power, let's say, for want of a better word, swayed. So some voices got stronger than others. But prior to that, we all had a strong belief in what we were doing. If you spoke to any of us, we were the best restaurant group in the world,
Yeah.
in a city that was the best city in the world.
Yeah.
We were doing 120, we were doing 25,000 people a week in 2008, 2009, 2010, a week. So at 60 plus spend a head, in those days, can you imagine what the business was? Our staff, I'll never forget the guy from Zuma. Yeah, he told me he always liked to employ Gaucho managers because of how well trained they were, how they knew their business, and how bloody hard working they were. But for me, and I think there were 6 of us that were running the company at that time. For me and for the others, it was a really, really, it was about heart. It was about passion. It wasn't about anything other than that. It was our true belief that we were doing something so spectacular. When we started the academy, that was a game changer for us. But that all started on a discussion. I was looking, because I opened Liverpool Street. That was the first one I opened in 2005. And I sat there and I watched it and I looked at the business. And every time I brought a new waitress in, her spend would drop by £30, right? It took 11 weeks for her to get up to the same standard and the same knowledge and the same spend as the waitresses that had been there for a long time. So that was costing us 11 or 12,000 pounds. So it made sense for us to then come back and say, well, hang on, I'm going to train this person for 2,000. It's going to cost me 1,500 or whatever it was, 1,200 pounds to train her over 2 weeks. And I mean, we had Janine was running the academy. She was insane. I mean, she wouldn't let anything slip. They had to pass exams, come back. There was one jeopardy. You come late, 3 starts, you're out. You didn't polish your shoes. These guys, man, they were coming into the military. But the cost of running the academy versus not running it saved us £9,000 over 2.5 months per employee, just on spend. So those sort of things that we then looked at and were able to do because we had the latitude to do it, changed the business, and changed what we were doing. And then the quality of the beef, the quality of the thing, Phil was doing the wine. We were bringing, I don't know, 10 million liters of red wine from Argentina. I mean, it was mad. It was insane. And obviously at the time, the city was pumping everything. It was a great time. I believe I was in London in the most spectacular time of our industry then, of the restaurant industry. Those were days that Gordon was coming up with, the Wolseley, I mean, gosh, the restaurants that were opening then and what the staff that we have, the pool of people that we had in those days was phenomenal. So all of these Europeans, these great Italians, and we had Greeks and we had Poles and we had so many people from all over the world that came to London and wanted to be better. So we had an unbelievable pool of people. So, and they came, and with us, they had to do the academy. So they ended up sticking around because it was such a pain in the ass for them to do it. So the ones that made it through the academy actually ended up doing well, and a lot of those kids became managers and became GMs and moved their way up, So there was a progression. It was a fantastic time. It was really a fantastic time. And I loved being in Gaucho at those days. And I was fortunate to be able to be involved in that. and to be part of it. It's a shame now the legacy, I don't know now, I'm not saying now, but the legacy in the last sort of 10 years or whatever it was. But when I was there, it was unbelievable. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. It was an unbelievable restaurant group, an unbelievable group of people. We had fantastic location. It was brilliant. It was really just a whole lot of magic that went together. I haven't been to Gaucho in years, but yeah, so
Times move on. Absolutely.
yeah.
I guess for my final question, we've spoken a lot about your, I mean, success, the Maldives, the $25 million islands, like all of this kind of stuff, Ryan. I mean, all sounds absolutely incredible. I'm sure not every day has been a sunny day, you know what I mean? And like, failure is something that every entrepreneur kind of like has to learn how to deal with as well. Even saying the word failure kind of sticks in your throat a little bit. But like, can you give us a little example of maybe something that you've done which maybe hasn't gone 100% according to plan, and how you got around it and how you kind of worked from it, just to give people out there kind of like, if they were running straight towards a
Mm.
brick wall, maybe kind of like how they'd get around it.
I mean, probably, I would say, I mean, just 'cause the one thing that comes to, since we're talking about Gaucho, was Gaucho Beirut. You know, we went to Beirut in 2010. That was the first. I did Amsterdam, which was Cow, was a different brand that we launched, and then I went to Beirut, and that was a hard lesson because again, expecting the staff to work the hours that we worked, expecting them to behave like they behaved in London, be taught like they were taught in London, and it was very difficult. We went in without the resources. I didn't have a proper opening team for long enough to embed a culture, our culture, into that business. And eventually, we had to close the restaurant. There was a war. The war broke out in Syria, which really affected us. But and it really affected the whole region. But I think, yeah, that was a huge learning curve for me because, as I said before, instead of trying to localize and understand, I try to impose.
Yeah.
And I try to educate, and I say that with really let's say a sour taste in my mouth uh, of myself because I thought I could educate the people about who we were and they would come to us because of who we were. But I didn't realize how educated, and I'm talking about education from a school perspective, but education from a dining perspective. We from London, we're this. And I think that lesson of trying to go into a market just as you are without localizing, without understanding, without realizing what people wanted, without trying to connect to the local people enough so that they took ownership of who we were. I tried to take ownership of who they were. I tried to be the one that was educating everybody and they had to listen and they had to understand. And what do you mean they don't understand? This is how we do it. It's so much better going to restaurants and looking around, oh, this is rubbish, this isn't great, this isn't that. Instead of looking and saying, okay, what do they do well? And trying to implement that. Why is this work? Why is the other work? Why is this such a. And it took me a while with a lot of knocks to actually get to a point where I understood. Wait a minute, you have to change your mindset. There's a percentage of your business that has to adapt to what that country is or what that market is. So those are school fees that I didn't like paying, but you do it and you learn and it teaches you. It really teaches you. And I'm still learning. I'm still making mistakes. I still fail every day. Just getting up in the morning is sometimes hard, but you have to do it. I've got people relying on me. I've got staff relying on me. I've got family or whatever that rely on me. So I don't have the luxury not to get up and not to keep fighting. I don't have that luxury, unfortunately. And I think that's part of what drives me is I just know that I've got 400 employees that need to eat. If I screw up, they screw up. If I fail, they fail. So there's a whole ecosystem around it. And I think that's drives and that's part of what keeps me going.
Absolutely. I always think it's when you're on the up and then you like open another thing, open another thing, open another thing, open
Yeah,
another thing. And then if one doesn't go right, then it has a catalytic effect on everything, right?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, but that's it. And then you tend to lose focus on if you got, I have a lot of things in the air, And if I know, I feel myself, I lose focus on one thing, it does feels it. And you're right, that it can have a very mean domino effect,
On everything else. Ryan, it's been
Yes.
incredible to meet up. I mean, I know that I see you a lot whenever I'm over in Dubai, and and I have been to the football thing, which is amazing. I've been to the beach
Yeah.
club, which are amazing. Maybe I'll come and visit you in the Maldives as well. Maybe about the opening. I
Sure.
don't know. It's out there in the world now. You know what I mean?
100%. I'd love your opinion now. You're well traveled and you know what you're doing. No. 100%. 100%. Absolutely. That'll definitely go without saying.
Excellent.
And
Got you
let's
on
see.
camera. Excellent, Ryan. Thank you so much for taking the time and having a
Okay,
chat. Really
guys.
appreciate it.